All right. So it was on mute. All right. Give me a thumbs up to make sure everything's okay. All right, awesome. I'm trying out some new programs, so just bear with me with everything. It's been like about a week that I've been on. So um what's going on, everybody? Just to introduce myself, my name is Eric Velasquez. I am interviewing the candidates for the city of San Antonio elections that are upcoming here really shortly. And early voting starts April 19th, ends April 27th, and election day is May 1st. So if you didn't register to vote yet, it's too late, but go check just to make sure you're registered. If not, unfortunately you won't be able to vote in this upcoming election, but please make sure you get out and vote if you do, and start getting to know more about the candidates and what positions they are about. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring our next guest. Hello,
Hi, how are you?
man. How are you?
Very good.
Everybody in the comments, make sure if you can hear everybody, please give me a thumbs up. I would just want to make sure that you guys can hear it as well. But I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure it'll be okay. Um, all right, so go ahead and introduce yourself.
Great. Well, good morning, Eric. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Melissa Cabello Havrda. I'm running for District 6 City Council for my first reelection. I'm really grateful to have been born and raised in District 6. I went to Taft High School, Timberwell Elementary, St. Mary's undergrad, and I also got my JD from St. Mary's and an MBA from UTSA. I'm very, very San Antonio. I am Budo all the way through. I love this city. It is my home. It's my lifeblood, and I'm really grateful to serve my community by serving as the city councilwoman. I feel a lot of my job is giving back to this community, these neighborhoods that help raise me. So it's important to me to give back. But more than that, it's I'm an advocate. You know, I'm an attorney, a disability attorney by trade, and what I do is advocate for people who feel marginalized. You know, these communities that don't feel like they have a voice at the table. Thank you also for bringing up the election that's coming up. If you're not registered to vote, register anyway. You can vote in the next election. Every election is important, but mainly local because it has the most impact on your day to day life. So, you know, thank you for getting helping to get the vote out, Eric. And as you mentioned, early voting starts April 19th, which is a matter of days, a week from today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, exactly. And I was looking at a recent thing that was saying that San Antonio it's steadily increased with voter turnout, but it's so low, like
So low.
11,
Yeah,
12%. So let's
it
do
is.
that. Let's keep
11
getting
and
that.
12% of registered voters. It's not even 11% of the city. I would love to say it was 11% of the city, but
Right.
it's a small fraction. And that's how you heard how your voices are heard. So get out and
Exactly.
vote.
Right. Okay, so I know you recently were they kind of highlighted you in the news about the whole issue with the SAPD and the police chief's son and everything.
Yes, sir.
Um, you can you talk about what you're seeing and what you would like to see in regards to the SAPD issue with accountability, proposition, B and all that if where you lie on that issue.
You know, it's the main issue that I have with all of this is transparency. When I understood what happened, uh, you know, I'm jokingly to say what may or may not have happened at the airport, right? Because we don't really know. We don't get to read that report. The main issue that I had was that the fact that there is some report out there that was commissioned by the city, which means commissioned by us, the people, and we don't get access to that report. If there is or is not racial profiling going on it with the airport police, then we need to know about that. So that was my number one issue. The chief's son, whatever happened, he had that record expunged, and I believe in his right to do that, and I believe in his right, our the rights of the law that the law protects him in having us read the report of his arrest. What I want to see is that report about racial profiling at the airport. For me, it's all about transparency with everything that's going on. I really commend the organizations that went out and got those signatures. That's the process. That's our right as citizens to be able to go and petition and put something on the ballot. So I support the process and that they were able to go and do that, and I commend them. It's not easy to do that. You know, there's been several ballot initiatives that have been tried, and they don't get the signatures. So it's up, for a vote here in a matter of days, in a week, and it's important that everybody gets their vote out there and has their voice heard, because ultimately that's the way that we're able to tell the city we need this transparency, we need this access to this information. And I get calls at my office, and what I always tell everybody is, you've got to go vote. That's the way you hear it. I hear you, and but this is at this point, it's for the people. The people are making this decision, so that's the number one way to solve the problem.
What do you think what do you think is the a good model for accountability then if if this removal of the chapters is not one of them, or removal of the chapter is not one of them, what are some of the things that you think, um, being an attorney, I know it's different, but I know you study a specific part of law, but what do you see as a better outcome for accountability in police department?
Again, it's transparency. There's I've talked to so many community members. I've talked to police officers, And I think everybody can agree that nobody wants bad officers on the streets. You know, those are the ones that make us put us in danger, but also make the police department look bad. So that accountability is transparency. It's even with the negotiations that are going on, the fact that they even have them publicly broadcast right now is something, because they don't normally do that. But even that, we don't know everything that's going on. Even as an elected official, I don't have privy. I'm not at the negotiating table. And when my constituents ask me what's going on, it's the same thing that I see, that y'all see on TV. I have to kind of keep up with it. So it's my job to do that. But I think where the accountability lies is in everything being an open book. The police department has a training manual this thick, and I actually started going through it, and that's my job, because I represent the people are working, right? They don't have time to go read this book. So that's my job. I start going through this book and highlighting and figuring out where are the nuances, where can we change. And then I go out to the community and say, look, what do you think about this? Because at the end of the day, it's not ever about what I want. It's always about what I truly believe in, representative government. So it's always about what the people that I represent want. And when I get phone calls, when I get emails, when I get even texts, I take note of those, because I have to do what my district is telling me to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Josie says, if reelected, what ideas, plans do you have to rebuild community and police relations?
That's a wonderful question, and I've thought long and hard about this. I think, when I tell you that I'm going through this book, this training book, I would like to be able to kind of serve that up to the community, and let's all sit at the table and talk about it. A year ago, things got very, very heated, and rightly so. There was an outcry, in a way, after the killing of George Floyd, and we all should be able to be at this table. We can't all be at the negotiating table, but we can all sit at a table and talk about what do you need to see, what do you, a District 6 resident, whatever, wherever you are, District 3, District 5, whatever resident you are, what do you see, what do you want to see different? And then we talk to police officers about that, and really kind of start that conversation. I think because when it first popped up, it was also heated and raw, and a long time coming, that it wasn't really, we weren't really able to kind of sit down and have a discussion about it. It's still raw and it's still heated, and rightly so, but at least everybody is kind of, we're all understanding other sides to this issue. I think every single side of this is understanding the other side at this point. So for me, it's about, I keep saying it, but I really do believe that it's about openness and transparency and having those conversations openly, maybe on a show like yours, Eric, to have this public conversation, and everybody be able to kind of give their input on it.
Right. And that was the whole reason why I started this, is because for candidates itself, you know, candidates don't get a real open, unbiased view from what I've seen, and it's disheartening. But also don't get the time to be able to voice their concerns and their opinions and things like that. And I think it really gets a better sense of idea of who the candidate is. So,
Yeah.
so
I'm glad you brought that up, if you don't mind, just real quick, because I think that people think we sit on this dais, and we think we're sort of above or beyond, the constituency. But I am a San Antonian. I'm born and raised here. I take this job very seriously, and as much as I'm out in the community. It's been hard with the pandemic, and that's something that I'm looking forward to getting back to neighborhood meetings. But I think that sometimes they think they have a perception of you as an elected or a candidate, or or a lawyer, or whatever you do, right? And they don't
yeah,
know the real you. And so it's really important, and why I'm very excited to be on here today. And I take every opportunity I can to be, to talk to people, one on one, because I want them to understand where I come from.
right. And to be honest with you, there's only been two actual sitting council members that have actually come on here.
Hmm.
So I know the biggest thing that from constituents and from candidates as well as accessibility, right?
Yeah.
So being accessible, I appreciate that you have been able to say I'm available, I'm accessible,
Yes, sir.
because not a lot of people do that,
Yeah.
and I think people take note of that. So I thank you for that.
I appreciate it. I mean, that's my number one job, is listening to the community, and going to the dais and voting how my community wants me to. So if I'm not out there all the time, then that's on me, right? That's something that I'm not providing to my constituents.
Right. So let me ask you, what what are the residents in District 6 telling you? Like, what is the biggest what are the biggest complaints? Because obviously, from what I'm seeing, a lot of the candidates are saying, well, and I'm not saying in your race. I'm saying from other races, it's, oh well, this and this. But at the end of the day, the people who are voicing the concerns to the city council people, that's who's going to get heard, right? So if you don't actually
That's
go
right.
and talk to the city council people, then they're not going to keep pushing those subjects. So what are people asking you in District 6?
The number one issue that comes up in districts, I'm knocking on doors, and I don't just do that during election time. We knock on doors all throughout my term. We want to know if we're going to put a sidewalk in your neighborhood. We knock on doors and ask you, do you want a sidewalk? Surprisingly, sometimes in older neighborhoods they don't want a sidewalk or whatever it is, right? So I've got to go out there and talk to you. And to your point, right, that I can only do what the constituents of District 6 tell me to do, but they have to tell me. They have to come and tell me. Even that, I take a step further. I can't. They're busy, right? They're working. They're going to school. They have families to raise. So I go out there. I go out into the community and knock on doors. I go to your neighborhood meetings, even though right now, there are a lot of them are virtual, and that's where I'm getting the information. I'm getting the data really that I need to make the decisions that I need to make for you. But I think I got off topic. I'm sorry. What was it?
I guess what are the
Oh,
what are the
the number
biggest things?
one question. Yeah. So what they talk to me about when I knock on doors is their streets, their sidewalks, drainage, graffiti, potholes. It's what you see when you look out your front door, you know?
What the city
Um,
council is responsible for?
Exactly, what we're ultimately responsible for. And there's a lot of overarching political issues, and they're very important. But my eyes are always on the streets, the drainage, the potholes, graffiti, all of that stuff, because that is what my constituents tell me that they want. I love this district. We're very, very diverse. We start in Edgewood, and then we go all the way over to Alamo Ranch, even go to Government Canyon, the natural area. It's very diverse, ethnically, socioeconomically, and so I have to be out there and I've got to talk to every group. And I really enjoy it because they're telling me, maybe I think this is a priority for District 6. And then I go out and talk to them and they're like, nah, I don't want that. I want this. And so I like, okay, that's my job. That's what I do when I do. That's what I focus on. So it's always infrastructure, and so I'm really proud to say that we were able to garner 44 million in infrastructure to District 6. I always want to collaborate with the other council members on issues, state, all other elected offices, so that we can try to get as much resources to the city. But I got to admit that I'm very selfish when it comes to District 6 dollars. I mean, I really want to make sure that we have the money we need to fix those sidewalks, to fix the drainage issues. I'm a disability attorney. I don't want to see these busted up sidewalks. I think about somebody in a wheelchair, or our abuelos out there and with their canes and walking in the street because they can't even walk on the sidewalks. It's dangerous, and so that's always my priority. I get really passionate about it, and it sounds crazy because it's streets, but it's
Yeah.
it's day-to-day living, that's the impact that it has on our elderly, our kids walking to school. In Edgewood there's a lot of areas where they're walking to school and they're splashing through puddles to get to school, and they shouldn't have to be dealing with that. So that's where I get a lot of that's what I hear when I'm knocking on doors. That's what people are telling me about. So that's what I focus on always.
So I mean, here's the thing: is from a lot of people's perspectives, they feel that city council is just trying to do bigger pet projects or different things that, I don't know, that is really not needed, so to say, instead of worrying about infrastructure. Do you see that, or is there something that maybe you can kind of convince the public otherwise? I mean, not specifically in your district, maybe, but the rest of the city council. And how can we stop that from happening if it is happening?
I don't know exactly what's meant by a pet project, but maybe it's because I really don't have one. I didn't come into District 6 elected seat with an agenda. I didn't have, this is my agenda. I want to get this done, this one thing done. It was always responding to what I was hearing, and like you mentioned, right? That's what our we were elected to do is these kind of boots on the ground issues. I do know, that there's other electeds that come in with like I'm going to change the world and with on this particular issue, and this is how I'm going to do it. And that we need that too. I mean, we need that passion for certain issues that are that are important to our community. But it has to always come kind of at a backseat to what the first item is, which is what constituents are telling us to do. In our district, I will say, if I was knocking on doors and everybody said, this is what I'm passionate about, this one thing, then hey, I'm going to focus on that. But we don't have that kind of, like you mentioned, like a bigger political issue that they're talking about. So I'm grateful in a way to be able to focus on the things that I have some control over, that the city budget, we have city budget dollars to help to maintain or correct or improve. Another big issue that I will say this: if there is a big issue outside of infrastructure, and it's not really outside of infrastructure, but in my district, it's parks. District 6 loves their parks. I think part of it is because I was growing up out there. It was almost like living in the country. There was nothing out there, If you think of Taft High School in the early '90s, it was out in the middle of cows, and there was a convent. That was it. So now it's Alma Ranch. Now it's all. We're the fastest growing district in the city. So what people hear to me is what I hear, I'm sorry, people saying to me is green spaces. We want our parks, improve our parks, give us new parks. I'm grateful to say in every budget cycle I've been part of so far, we're able to procure little neighborhood parks, because I love the big parks that we can drive to, but to me, a park, you should be able to walk down the street and go to a park, right? You shouldn't have to drive to a park. So we have these little kind of 3 acre, 4 acre parks in neighborhoods that we're starting to focus on. And I guess if anybody thinks that's my thing, that's my angle, maybe that's it. But it's because my constituents come to me and say, "Hey, there's a lot of development here. We need to preserve our green spaces." And I'm
Oh
also
yeah,
grateful to say,
I wasn't saying anything specifically to you. I
no,
was just like for other districts that
yeah,
kind of an issue. And like, so do you think you would like to see more like community gardens, because
yes,
that's something a lot of people are trying to
yes.
push for.
I get really excited about that because we have a food desert in my district. We have Edgewood, right, and other parts, not just Edgewood, but around the John Jay area. There's not a chain grocery store. There's not a healthy corner store for people to go and get fresh produce. Over the pandemic, we partnered with the food bank to bring fresh produce delivery to that area, and the Edgewood. Administration, the superintendent's office, all they really helped us to get fresh produce out there, and people were lining up for bags of fresh produce. That's really important. That's real. That's every day. People need that. So what I took that cue and listening to my community, and I'm looking for a park. I want a park area. I read this article in Atlanta. They have like a 7 acre food forest. So I started asking around, and let's figure out how to do this. So it's community garden, yes, but it's also almost like an orchard. Like, we'll be able to have a nonprofit come in and run this community park, and it will be a food forest where you can go in and you can pick a peach off a tree, and you can go get some cucumbers planted, and it's really exciting because you get to be involved in it, and I think it's a really good educational aspect and opportunity for children. And young people alike, and even I shouldn't say not just little kids, but teenagers, young people, to get out and to understand how important it is to make these healthy decisions. Because when you are struggling to survive, your last concern is how healthy is my meal, right? You're just trying to eat. You're trying to figure out how to feed your children, all of that. So that's, I think, something that we need to help and cultivate, and that's something I'm really excited about doing. I want to do, of course, Atlanta has the biggest food forest right now. I think it's 7 acres. I want to do it better. I want San Antonio to be biggest and baddest, so I want it to be a 10 acre park, and that's just to start with. But it has to be strategically located there in that neighborhood so that people can walk, ride their bikes, ride the bus, and get to that place without having to need a vehicle. Without there's not going to be any economic challenges to getting to that place. But the Food Policy Council, I've been working with them, and we're really trying to figure out how we're going to end up running it. I think I've got a site located. Um, but we have to figure out how, because you can't just go plant it and say, okay, have at it. Somebody has to run it, right? So,
Yeah.
and
Well,
nobody better than a nonprofit.
yeah,
Go ahead.
definitely. Have you considered vertical farming at all?
Yes, yeah. So that's another aspect of it. We're looking at that, and I don't want it to just be a food forest. Although that's very, very important, I'm looking at it being a bigger track where we can have like vertical farming, the food forest, but also there's a lot of older people in that neighborhood, and just like a walking trail, a padded walking trail, those little outside exercise equipment pieces, and then of course a place that we want children and older, everybody in between to be able to use the park. But I think it's going to be sort of a feature of a bigger park. And in that area where we're really looking at bringing up health outcomes, uh, that's, I think it's very, very important. But
Yeah,
yes, absolutely. And I'm open to all of those views because I think the best solutions come from the people that are dealing with the problem.
you're right. Exactly. Josie said that Councilwoman Cabello Havrda has been one of the few city and council members that has remained accessible to constituents and advocates, even those who oppose her own views.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. That's the highest praise I can get.
Right.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that, Josie.
Okay. So on Instagram, we have healthy communities start with healthy soils, educating the poverty-stricken communities how to grow in their own food and the importance of composting,
Yes,
medical herbs and flowers. So, yes, very, very true.
that's great.
Is there anything that you would like to continue on or to push for if you do get reelected, or even if for some reason I'm just saying, do you think you would continue to do something to push for the district itself?
That's a good point. God willing, I'm reelected, but if I'm not, I'm still going to be out there. I've got too much invested in these communities. I'm not going to stop. This food forest is like in my blood now. I really want to get this for this community, and part of it is we did an urban farming council consideration request, so that we're looking at that now. But it's to be able to have these community gardens and not it's removing some obstacles really to community gardens, not just the big one that we're looking at, but a backyard neighborhood uh, community garden where people are wanting to here I have an abundance of tomatoes or whatever it is, let me give them out. There's actually some obstacles to that, so one thing I'm working on and I'd like to continue to work on after reelection is to be able to remove those barriers for people to be able to share the produce that they are they're growing in their backyards.
Yeah, definitely. So with the property taxes, I know this is always just an issue, but with the property taxes, what do you see? Is there some type of relief that we can push for the residents, because it's getting worse, like even worse than it is.
Yeah, it it really is. I mean, we all got our property tax appraisals here a couple weeks ago, and I'm having these kind of educational sessions with a tax professional. They're free, by the way. I think my next one is April 24th. And I may, if it's okay, Eric, I may send you that link to share with your viewers. Everybody's welcome to attend. It's by Zoom, so it's wherever you are, you can join in. But the first one that we had maybe 15, 20 people show up, and I got a lot of good feedback. They said I learned a lot of tricks about protesting my taxes.
Yeah,
But then everybody got our appraisals in, and then the next session had like over 100 people because now we're like,
yeah,
whoa, I need this help, right? And so I'm very grateful to offer this opportunity, a gentleman named John Pelayo who's doing it for free. And, it's really, really helpful. I learned a lot about it. I've been through that process. It's a difficult process to protest your taxes. I'm an attorney and I was going through this process like, whoa, this is a lot, and to get the pushback
I,
that
I,
I did.
I compared it to car buying.
Yes, yes, yes. You feel like you're getting like hustled a little bit, right? Yeah. And I remember going down to the tax office. I sat down in front of him. I had this guy threatening me. Well, if you don't take this deal, well, then you're gonna go to a hearing. I was like, great,
It's
let's go
like,
to a hearing. I felt like I was getting hustled. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And so, and also on that point, shameless plug. At 1 o'clock today, just remember, guys, that we are going to have also how to process your taxes
Oh, good.
on live stream today. So please do that if you're going to watch that later on. We will have a Berry County Appraisal District representative doing a presentation. So please join, learn how to do that. If you can't, you can also watch it, or you can also jump on to Councilwoman Harvda's. When is it? April when? 24th?
24th, 24th, sir.
24th.
Yeah,
Just send me that link, and then
I sure
I'll
will.
as well.
I
But
sure will. Yeah.
and since this will be a live stream, it'll be a Q&A as well, so you can ask directly to the BCAD
Awesome.
representative. So there's no better way to actually just ask the representatives themselves. So
Yeah.
definitely do that. Uh, so what was that jump from running for office, right? When you first got elected to what was that jump like for you to enter into the race and just to keep that momentum going now?
Yeah, it is. It's hard. I'm gonna if you'll indulge me, I'm gonna tell you a little something about why I ran in the first place, right? And it's so like so much of what we do as adults. It's just because of experiences I had as a child. One in particular, my grandparents lived in the inner west side, and I was growing up. My grandfather was. He wasn't a formally educated man, but to me, he was a lot. He was a big pillar in my life. And we were walking in his neighborhood one day, and we he was on the street. You know how adults would walk on the street, and I was in the grass, kind of that protective barrier. And I remember as a little girl kicking at the grass, and then looking up at him and asking him, "Why don't you have any sidewalks in your neighborhood?" And my grandfather looked down at me and he said, "Porque no les importa? They don't care about us." And even as like a 7 or 8 year old girl, uh, I won't say a bad word. I was very upset. It sparked something in me. Even as a little girl, it sparked something in me. Then somebody that was so meaningful to me didn't feel like he had that voice. At the time I didn't understand. He didn't have a voice. He didn't feel like, as a Mexicano, as a Latino, as a person who wasn't formally educated, who's a hardworking carpenter and raised 8 kids, that he didn't feel like they were going to listen to him. Like, who is he, right? And
Right.
so that led me to become an attorney. That's why I went to law school. It was that moment in my life where I decided I'm not going to let that happen to people like my grandfather. I'm going to be that voice. And as I became a disability attorney, again, advocating for marginalized communities. And then it led me to run for council. And I still feel like in that way, I'm still trying to bridge that gap. But what I did learn is that I don't actually have to be a voice for that community. What I need to do is get out of the way and like pull a seat up for that community. They can speak for themselves. I just have to make room for them. Right. So that's what I'm working on. That's the momentum that I always try to keep up, that I'm always challenging myself to make sure that I'm inviting these communities to the table. Because if nobody else is going to do it, it's my job to do it. At least I see it as my job to do it. So I mean, it really is my daily struggle, my daily challenge. Am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? And there are some days when I really feel like I could be doing more, and so I've got to do better the next day. But for me, it was, I was part of some leadership groups like Latina Leadership Institute, different things that sort of taught me like it's totally okay to be as San Antonio as you are. It's okay to wear bright colors. It's okay to wear your hoops. Like, because I didn't think that I can't be an elected. I'm just like this little, like doing my over here in my corner trying to do my good work. And I needed to see somebody like me up there. So I think it's I hope anyway that young people in our community are seeing that we need this representation of women of color. We are the first. A lot has been made of the fact that we're the first elected woman majority council, but it was 2019 when that happened. Come on, like that shouldn't have taken that long. But I think what's more important than every one of the women that are on council with me, they are women of color and they were born and raised in these communities that they represent. That is true representative government. If you ask me a question, I'm speaking for District 6, and I feel confident doing that because I grew up here. I understand this community, all parts of it, because my family, my big Mexican family, was all over the city,
Right.
but all over District 6. So I really that really the transition for me was to understand that you don't have to be the one that's always kind of talking for them. Just get out of the way and let them do it. And I learned that through community efforts, with what's happening with the Black Lives Matter movement and other movements. That it's there really is a lot going on out there, and I've learned so much more about my own city sitting in the seat, and I'm grateful for every day of it.
Yeah. And what I've seen, especially when I ran last year, it was the thing of people just want to know what's going on, right? They
Yeah,
they just want to know why are these things happening the way they are. And I don't think a lot of times either the government usually gives them like an idea of what's going on, or they don't know where to turn to. So,
yeah.
what do you think you can do, or do you think you've done a decent job at it? Do you think you can get better at communicating with the public better?
Absolutely. I can always get better at communicating with the public. It's hard. And like I mentioned, you can't expect people to come to you. You got to go to them. So especially in this last year, it's been difficult. But I go to every neighborhood meeting that I can. But not everybody goes to the neighborhood meetings. So I've mentioned, everybody's busy and got their lives to work on. But so me, it's going into the communities. There are health groups in the city, in my district, as a matter of fact, that have mobile units. Going out with them, going out to where they are, the people that are coming out to get these checkups or to get a vaccination or whatever it is. Go out into those communities and take the opportunity to talk to them. Hey, I know you're here for a COVID test, but what do you want to see in your neighborhood? What do you like? What do you not like? That's always a question that I ask when I knock on the door. Um, right now, and always, really, it's always, what do you want to see? But what I can do better at is getting out there more. We have social media, we have forums like this, we have kind of, I have a newsletter. If anybody wants to sign up for, I'm very happy to add people to that link. But not everybody has access to the internet. Not everybody is, really maybe cares enough, right? Maybe they do care, but maybe they're just not as engaged. So it's my job to go out there and get you engaged. I would love to see, I think a real, if I'm doing a good job, what I would like to see is increasing voter turnout in my district, at least, because that to me will say, okay, people are paying attention, people are engaged, they care about the issues that they care about, and they're willing to be heard. But I got to go to where they are.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at um like district district 10 is or precinct 4 is a huge precinct that
Mhm.
turns out a lot of voters, but then you look at some of the other districts and things like that, and they get very very low voter turnout,
Yeah.
and so, but like kind of like what you said is people don't feel like they care, right?
Mhm.
And so, and that's been a long standing thing, even from I was watching a documentary on Willie Velasquez, which I don't, we're not related, but it was the same thing. He came across the whole thing. They were going door to door, and they were like, "Why? They don't care about us." So that
Mhm.
mentality has been like that, and it's been like that because it's always felt that way. So how can we change that in your eyes? Obviously, that's a big jump, right? I'm not
It,
asking that you're going to completely change it, but
yeah.
how can we, as people that run for office, change these things if the system is still in place that continues to overlook the citizens that are either lower income or things like that?
It is kind of a bad cycle, because if you don't think that the government cares about you, then you don't get involved, right? But does the government care about you until you get involved, right? So it's kind of a bad circle um, that perpetuates itself. And so every time when I'm out in the community and I ask people, what do you like to see, what do you not like to see, I've been looking for this for 10 years and nobody's ever done it. And I'll ask them, well, have you ever asked for it? Have you ever called? No. Well, that's why I'm here. Let's talk about it. It's not to shame anybody, because people are busy, but just to say, let's come on, jump in. All you gotta do is fill out a form, or whatever it is. I do a lot of surveys too. We mail them out, because not everybody can do online, but we mail them out, and I get probably 15% back, which is a little more than the voting, which but
Oh,
I
well,
mean, it's a self address, like, just fill it out and turn it in, and not everybody wants to do that, because there's so much. It's not just apathy, but it's mistrust. It's distrust of our elected leaders, and with some of the things that are going on nationally, it's hard. I understand why people are checked out. Why they think, man, forget that. That's too. They're not going to do anything for me. But if you don't kind of get involved, you don't voice your opinion, you don't sit in that chair that we're pulling up for you, then how do we know? So
there's always
it's a cycle. I'm
there's
sorry.
always a topic that'll light somebody, fire
Yeah,
somebody up. You know what I mean? There's got to be a topic, because I know
that's
for
true.
me, I was like that. I was like, I don't care. It's boring. It's boring, right?
Hmm.
Back back when I was in high school and everything. But then, I started listening, and I was like, wow, this sucks. Like, what
Yeah,
is going on? Like, I should be more involved, and I think once that spark happens with somebody, I think that'll start. But it's a
yeah.
constant cycle to where we have to know where to go, and we have to know who to talk to and things like that.
That's
Um,
a really good point. That when you're a kid, right? Like, if you don't grow up in a house that's paying attention to politics, or a particular issue, if it's water, if it's housing, whatever it is, right? Then maybe you're just kind of checked out. So I think that's another really good way to do this is kind of have more civil engagement as young people, even before they can vote, right? So that they can understand as they go into getting older and voting and getting engaged that number one, why they should be involved in it, why their voice is important to be heard in this because they have a unique perspective, and how they can do it. Not just well, I have a really strong opinion. What do I do? Well, let's show you,
Right.
right? So it's so, somehow in the schools or after school programs, whatever it is, getting out there. And I know there's good programs out there, but we have to do our best to help fund them and to help get them out there.
Right. Do any of the city council offices have like an internship for students?
I don't know about the other ones, but I don't think I've ever said no to an intern. Honestly, if somebody wants to come and work and learn, I was an intern for a sitting council member back way back when in the 90s. That's how I learned about this stuff. I think it's a valuable experience. It really is, even if it's like one day a week. We've had several interns, young, even older people that just want to know what's going on, and we're an open book. So we love to have people come in, especially when they live in my district. Of course, I always prioritize that because then I can understand what
Right.
why what do you want to see out there, right? And then they start to get a little bit like, hey, this crazy is like listening to me, and then we all kind of have that conversation. And so I love having interns in our office. They offer me a different perspective when I'm going out and talking to people. Sometimes they hear something maybe I don't hear because they have a different perspective, and then it's value to me. But anything that I can offer a young person to get involved, I'm very very happy to do. If I didn't have that opportunity when I was a kid, I wouldn't be here now.
Yeah, and here's the thing too is these districts, I mean they're pretty big, but they're also small, right? But there's a high concentrate of people there. So like when I ran for Texas rep last year, there was like 178,000 people in the district. In some of these city council districts, you have like 150, 160, even more
Mhm.
thousand people. So and I know there's been the talk of expanding the city council districts. Do you think that's going to happen? And if so, when?
I don't know. I mean, I imagine when the state looks at redistricting lines, it might. I don't know if they're going to expand. They're definitely going to probably shift around a little bit. It's inevitable. And I just it doesn't, to me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I know that I'm going to represent the geographical boundaries that I'm to represent. But also in real life, there's no boundaries. So, like a District 5 resident calls me, which are my neighbors, District 4, District 5, and District 7. They call me and they're looking for something. I don't say, oh, call her or call him. I do it. We just do it, because I don't want to, I'm not going to turn anybody away, right? So, because in real life, there are no boundaries. And in so many cases, there is a neighborhood that's cut in half, and now this is 5 and this is 6
It's
or 7 or
confusing.
whatever.
It's
It
confusing.
is. It's confusing. Yeah. I almost wish they could go along neighborhood lines, but because
Right.
of that, and we're never going to do that, it's too much of a carve out. We always just help whoever calls us. If we can't for whatever reason, we do refer them to the right person. But if it's something that's within the city, I always just make the call myself and try to figure it out for them.
Yeah, definitely. Would you ever look at um have you ever heard of ranked choice voting?
I'm sorry. Of
Ranked
ranked.
choice
No, I
voting.
haven't.
So ranked choice voting, for everyone who hasn't heard this, this is new to the US, but it's been incorporated like in several different countries. But the way ranked choice voting works, especially with races that have a lot of people in them, like District 2, District 5, and District 3, ranked choice voting, what would happen is, since there's probably not going to be a majority winner, right, for the first round, that first election,
Oh, right.
what happens is with ranked choice voting, this is an instant runoff, which the city or the county pays $8 to $10 million at least to hold a runoff election. Um, so with ranked choice voting, what would happen is it would eliminate the need for a runoff election. This is an instant runoff, and you would only vote the one time, right?
Hmm.
And what happens is you would have your candidates. You rank them in order by one, two, three, four, five, in whatever order you want. And if your first pick doesn't get the the majority, then it goes into round two. If there's no clear majority winner of 51%, just like it is right now, then it goes into the next round. Again, you're not having to vote twice or three times
Oh,
or more.
okay.
Just the one is instantly done. And what happens is then uh the second candidate, your votes go to your second candidate and things like that. And it just goes in like that to where uh you end up having an actual clear winner, but you end up picking who you want in order by rank. So
Oh, okay.
you don't feel like your vote is getting wasted if you're picking
Got it.
maybe a not favorable by media standpoint candidate, or things like that. So this would definitely alleviate that. It would eliminate the need for a runoff election,
Hmm.
um, and then it would also help the candidates. It would make the candidates a little bit more, um, I guess, they would play nicer.
Well,
Because then, and I know that doesn't really happen here in the city too much, but
too
when you have,
much.
you know, you have people wanting to get your second choice, your second ranked choice for
Hmm.
that voter base. So, is that something that you know would do you think something like that would change the landscape here in San Antonio?
I think it would. I've never seen that before. That's really interesting. And I also think that you may pay a little more attention to the other candidates if you know you've got to pick a second and third choice, right?
Right,
I guess the only drawback I would think, and I'm just thinking out loud because I have not seen this before, but you have that if you do make a runoff, if you, like in some cases right now, you have, 10, 11 candidates, it's hard. That's a lot of people. How do you kind of figure out all 10 people, what they're about? But you do that extra work if you know you just get the one vote, I guess, right?
right,
The benefit to having, I think, that extra month of runoff is when you know you have two people, you can do a lot more in depth. Okay, what's the difference between these two? What are they for? What are they against? But I do really like the idea of it. I've never seen that before. I like the idea of having to do that work up front. Number one, only voting once, because we all know that runoff, people don't come back. They don't
right.
always come. It's a fraction of the fraction that initially voted. They don't always come back, and
Yeah.
then the cost, the expense to the county and the city of having that second election. That's really intriguing. I'd like to learn more about it.
Yeah, the volunteer time and all
Yep.
that, which
Right.
struggle with getting volunteers to be at the polling stations already to begin with. So,
Yeah.
it's just something different that I've seen, and it's not talked about here just because it is new, right? I think New York and some other states have started implementing them.
Oh,
These,
really?
yeah, and so they're testing it out, but I think it would be really cool to see it on certain times. Maybe we could try something like that in one of these races that have a really have a lot of people on them, like I
Yeah.
said, 2, 3, and 5. But
Yeah.
um
And I think
no,
it's kind of be the new normal. These last couple of years have been very politically charged on all stages, on all levels. And so, it fires people up and they want to run. I don't think that this kind of a lot of people running for an office, a seat, is going to go away. I think it's going to stick around because people are, and I'm, in a very good way. You want people to be engaged and involved. It's not easy to, it's very
yeah,
difficult to put your name on a ballot.
yeah,
Your family, everybody, everybody has to be in it. So I really respect it. But I think that's a really interesting way of solving the problem of having so many candidates.
right. And with that, if you were to incorporate that in the state level as well, that would end gerrymandering,
Mm-hmm.
because then it would actually be more of a realistic gauge of what people are voting for. So
Yeah.
this actually, if you look at some of these things, they actually said that it would end gerrymandering. So that is a big thing that I know people have
Wow.
talked about with gerrymandering.
I'd like to
Um,
see too the with you said New York and what other state was doing it?
there's a couple other states. I can't
Oh,
remember.
okay.
I just know New York specifically did
Yeah.
it for the presidential election,
Yeah.
but I can't remember. I have to look back
I'd
at
like
it.
to
But
see that data, on that. Like because if somebody's already done it, then let's take the good from what they've done and leave out the bad from what they did. Let's learn from it, right? So
yeah,
if somebody's already taken that initiative, we can always piggyback and figure out how we can make it better. So I like
yeah,
that idea.
And I know when I've asked the candidates, they've said, well, then you have to teach people how to do it. But in reality, we had to teach people how to use the new machines. I mean, it's not
Sure.
that much of a difference. And
Right.
there's already people that are voting for multiple candidates, and their vote gets tossed out because they are doing that.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the data, but um, oh, Ashley says Maine does it. Oh,
Oh, Maine. Okay. You can look
yeah.
into that. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it, as far as with the whole CPS issue, do you see something that's going to be a positive for us? And I know they recently did to where they're going to give you money or credit back to your bill. Is there something else that the city is going to do to kind of hold some of those positions accountable, or hold some of these entities accountable?
I think the like a lot of people in when that storm, there were times when I just felt like almost helpless. Like, what can I do? How can I help people? And it was so difficult to get information, and people, and literally in the dark, right? Couldn't figure out what was going on. How do we get help? How do I get my lights back on? All of that. And I think what we have to understand as a city, me as a city councilwoman, is how what when we can't just learn the lessons. Okay, we did these things wrong, A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever. We did all these things wrong. We could have done this better. But what we have to do right now is make those changes, because with climate issues and all of that, that's, I know that they're saying that's like a once in a lifetime storm, but I don't buy it. I think we're going to have another one, and I don't know when, I don't know where, but it's going to happen. And we have to learn those lessons now and make these changes right now. So God forbid we have another debilitating storm like that. We learned those lessons and made those changes. So to me, it's more about, I'm trying to get the opportunity out of it, opportunity to change things. One of the big issues for me was weatherization of our plants, because Texas didn't mandate that the state of Texas didn't mandate that we weatherize our pumping stations, our CPS facilities. We didn't do it. So, I mean, why do they have to mandate it? Let's just do it. Let's figure it out. Let's find the dollars to do that, because it would have solved, a big percentage of our problem. Um, I've learned a lot about this. I mean, I didn't know who ERCOT was before this. I think a lot of us have learned a lot about,
Yeah, that they
CPS.
had qualified immunity. That was
Right, exactly, right. Like, we didn't know a lot of this stuff. So now but we can't just say, "Oh, okay, now we know," and then, "Oh, it won't happen again." It just assume it's going to happen again and learn these lessons. Even very simple things like, so many people pointed out, all the lights downtown were on. Even private businesses, we can request, "Hey, can you turn these lights off?" If they can. I actually give smaller businesses a pass, because if you've got a little storefront in a strip mall, you couldn't go out to go turn your lights off, right? But because maybe you were snowed in or whatever. But these big facilities downtown, we could have taken care of that. The alert system that we get when there's maybe COVID numbers are up or whatever, we could have used that. We could have used that system for anybody checked in. There's a lot of small things that we could have done differently. The CPS issue, I'm watching it really closely. I'm anxious about it, because we cannot allow our citizens to have to foot the bill for all those mistakes. We just can't allow it. The CPS and the city are now suing, and my background as an attorney, I have a lot of hope there. But um, we can't hang our hat on that. We've got to keep looking for other ways to figure this out. The rebate, I know people were upset. I think it was something like $11. Look, I'll take $11 all day, every day. Like, but I just don't think it's right for everybody to have to pay. With everything we already had to endure, and then on top of that, it's like insult to injury. And then now we have to pay this ridiculous amount that we've seen in other areas of the state, but not here yet. So hopefully we won't see it here.
yeah. Yeah, that was I don't know, there was a lot of things. Here was the thing that caught me off guard is I had people telling me that they got their information from me or other people that um were on social media, as
Mhm.
far as like to help, and nothing from the city. Uh and that was sad, because I mean, like, I'm nobody, but but they were getting information from our sources and not from the actual city government. So, uh, is there something that has there been talks about? Look, we need to make sure we get information out, regardless of whatever it is, all across the board to the citizens.
Yes, yeah. The alert system is one of those things. We should have set up warming centers before. We I don't know that any of us really knew how bad the storm was going to be, but we did know some weather was coming, right? We could have done a lot more to get ready for it. Like I mentioned before, it was, I think that the biggest problem everybody had, I had included, was the lack of communication. I couldn't get answers. How can I disseminate that to my community? We were getting calls. We, of course, emails, all of that to our council office. My staff, I have to give a quick shout out to my staff, the District 6 staff, the people working for the district. They were out there delivering heaters because people had power for a little bit, but their heaters were going out because it kept turning on and off, right? And so we were delivering heaters. We were getting water out that day. And even 2 weeks after, there were apartment complexes weeks after that still didn't have water, and they were living, just they're horrible living conditions. It's not right. So we did what we could, but all of that was like, catch as catch can. It was like nonprofit groups and partnering with, different groups that just got involved. Not even, even maybe not formally organized, but just got involved, and us having to figure out, okay, how can we help you? We'll get us this resource, and we'll get it out to the apartments. We'll get it out to that community. And it was not organized in any way. So that's, I think, where we have to look at, is getting that kind of communication organized and involving these groups before something happens, so that when it happens, we switch the switch on and it goes out. I'm glad now that I know that you had a hand in that. If again, God forbid it happens again, I'm gonna reach out to you, say, hey, get this out to my people. If they're paying attention and they're listening, then let's use that channel and any other channel that people have. We were putting things out on social media and the news, and we had like emergency newsletters going out, but people didn't have power. So, how were
Right.
they
Yeah.
gonna, so it was difficult. But
Yeah. Yeah. And that was I know we had did a bridge to somebody who was needed somebody at some of the Saha facilities, and then
mhm.
food. So I was able to get a contact with there, and we were able to bridge that. But it's just stuff like that that people really needed at that time, because especially with Saha, those
Yeah.
Saha facilities that, and I'm not going to go into those, but
Well,
there's
that's another big thing that I saw. That's something that I was. There was a lot. One particular facility where there was a lot of publicity around it, but there were others, and there were some in my district where we were having to go and help, and it's that's unconscionable. We have to make sure that we're doing what we can for those residents that are already at risk.
right.
I've even started. As a matter of fact, an older lady in my district brought this to me. Say, hey, do you have like the city have a list for homebound residents, not just older, not just seniors, but homebound residents, disabled seniors. And I looked into it, and sure enough, we don't. So I started looking, how can we do it, right? Well, things take time. It's a little bit like trudging through mud sometimes. So we just started our own list. I mean, pen and paper, started writing down, who do we know? Communities come to us and tell us, who do you know in your neighborhood that if something like this happens again, we can make a phone call. We can go and check on them. I mean, it's, even if it's one page of lists, it's one page of people that we can check on, right? So we're going to continue to work on that. I'm still working, trying to figure out a way to work with the city to get a more organized list, but my staff and I are doing what we can just right now, just with
Right.
the resources we have.
Yeah, you would think that that would be on
Yeah,
there.
it seemed,
Well,
yeah, exactly. And she came
and,
to us saying, like, do you have this? And I was like, oh my gosh, we sure don't. And it just a good idea, from a lady that just was paying attention.
right, and I always want to advise people that, please, just if there's an idea, just reach out to your city council members, or reach out to
Yes.
somebody to try to get
Right.
information, because just because if you're like, well, I'm sure somebody's thought of this, you never know.
Yeah.
Well, I ran into a couple situations. I'm like, I'm sure, I'm not gonna say it, and then they're gonna be like, dude, it's already been like that. But you just never know. It's always helpful
Take
to
the
just bring
chance.
something up. Yeah, take a chance,
Yeah.
shoot your shot, and
Right,
try it out.
exactly. And you should be surprised. This lady that called me saying this, I was like, man, no, we don't. And
Right.
that was genius in my opinion. But if she thought, somebody else probably thought of it, she would have been wrong. And so she thought
Yeah,
of it, and we're doing it.
and this is the map for city council 6, right?
Sir.
So it's definitely it's a big area. I think this
Yep.
is 1604 right here. Um,
I don't know where
or
you're. Yeah. So yeah, that's
4,
that's that's 1604. Yeah,
and then this is
yeah.
government.
That's Government Canyon. That's right. Yes, sir.
So
No, that's
so
410 right about
you,
where you
I
are.
mean, are you is Government Canyon kind of attached to District 6 in a sense? Like,
It is. So if you see that kind of blue line going up 471, the district is very strange because it's this lower part from Edgewood to Alamo, a little bit of Alamo Ranch, then it just goes up 471, and then it and up Gom or over to Gom anyway, and then Government Canyon. It's very strangely drawn, but I'm grateful we have a big old natural area in our district, so I love it. I love that we have
we
that.
we me and my wife and the kids went the other week, and it was
Yeah.
grueling. It sucked. Like
Yes.
it's
Yeah. But
miles. Like, oh my god.
there's dinosaur tracks out there, though. That's so cool. I love that we have dinosaur tracks in our district.
Oh, uh, let's say so. The toughest question of the day: what are your top three small business restaurants in District 6?
Ooh, yes. Oh my gosh. There's so many. There's so many. I could list off so many, but there's Acadiana. We have Acadiana in our district. That's a locally owned, very very good Cajun food. Um, Mad Pecker Brewery, which I love because it's on Tesla Road, and they actually have their beers, their ales and stuff. They named after the neighborhoods, so I love that. They're very very District 6, very San Antonio. I love that. We have another little locally owned place called Sandia. Has great food, but it has mangonadas and things like that. So I love that too. Now that the weather's getting warm, we can go support them. But those are three great locally owned District 6 owned restaurants. And if any one of those, you can't go wrong. La Perla. There's so many. There's so many.
And since I love music, I think music always ties to people, regardless of what. We
Mhm.
could always, you know, uh, connect with music. So, what are some of your favorite bands, musicians, or genres?
So I'm a punk rock girl all the way through. So I love
Oh,
old school kind of Op Ivy. Rancid was a big one for me. I love Rage Against the Machine. I think that they are probably one of my top five, just because it's so meaningful. That music is very meaningful to me. But I'm also, my parents grew up in the '50s, so I grew up listening to Motown. I love me some Etta James, and old blues, John Lee Hooker, all of that stuff. Those are my big kind of go tos, my comfort music. So kind of
yeah.
like all the way from blues over to punk rock. So, but I love it.
So, do you think music is going in the right direction? I mean,
Not
because
always.
we always, it's like the older people are like, "Oh, this music sucks," and it's always like that constant, oh, once you get older, it's like, "Oh, that the new music sucks." But do you think any of the new music is any better or good or
Some of it. I mean, some of it I think is gone off kind of a way that I'm not. Maybe I'm just being a viejita about it. Like that's a little much for me, right? But like I love Lizzo, I love Cardi B, all of that. That's really like to me. That's like the new. That's almost like soul music in a way to me, right? It just kind of speaks to my soul. I love it. I love the dance. I love the just the music part of it. But I love seeing women that are not traditionally kind of empowered to have to come into their own and really representing other people like them. So I love that part of it. But I'm some of it I guess I could probably do without. But like I'm really looking forward to going to shows again. I love going to Paper Tiger. Snoop Dogg's coming to Sunken Garden. That's a little old school, but I love all of that. It's just part of who
coming
you are.
coming with he's coming with Martha Stewart, isn't he? Not just
Yeah, right. I'm just gonna watch him smoke on stage. I don't know.
right.
But yeah, I love that the article that came out said the Snoop San Antonio's favorite stoner is coming to San Antonio. I was like, really? Like that's not. He has great music. I love his music,
Yeah,
and he loves corridos. I'm sort of hoping that he's going to sing a corrido on stage. I don't know if you heard that, but
I
Snoop
could
Dogg.
see him. I could see him do that.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But it's also my escape. My work is very stressful. I'm still practicing. I'm a practicing attorney. I'm raising three kids. It's a very stressful. It's very stressful work. But music to me is sort of my escape. I can go running and listen to my music, and I'm that little Taft High School graduate that loved Rancid or bad punk rock, or it's nice
So
to be able to do
question,
that.
because I know I have it, and I know my wife has it, but do you have a soundtrack to your life?
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh, but it's so many things.
I know,
I
like,
think
do you ever like you're listening to music or you're doing whatever, and then a song comes on, you're like, oh, that's going to my soundtrack.
yes,
Soundtrack of
yes, I totally do. I also, this y'all are gonna think I'm crazy. I also have like funeral music. Like this is a great song for my funeral because this is who I am. You know, like there's just I have a lot. Music is very meaningful to me, so I
yeah,
do feel really strongly about the soundtrack to my life. But I also think like when my family's all sitting around my urn, they want to hear that song because they're gonna laugh because that's so Melissa.
yeah. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I did too. I also do have. I think it was something like I think it was like Elvis Crespo.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. I love
I was
it.
like,
I love
I
it.
want it to be a party. I don't want it to be somber, playing
Right.
piano.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a party. But yeah.
Mine is my one of my funeral songs is it's a Willie Nelson song. It's nothing I can do about it now. It's just if y'all ever get a chance to listen to it, I think the name of the song is "There's Nothing I Can Do About It Now." I'm gone. Right? Like I've made mistakes, I've done good, nothing I can do about it now. So I think it'll make my family. I hope anyway they'll laugh a little thinking about
Right.
it.
All right. Well, I know we've gone way over time, and I know we're supposed
I
to
enjoyed
change,
it.
but is how can people get a hold of you, donate, volunteer, everything? How can people do that?
Thank you. So first of all, if you live in District 6, if you don't, you have something to say, I'd love to hear from you. Our office number is 210-207-7065. You can also email us at District 6 at
Oh,
San
hold
Antonio. Oh, yes, sir.
on. Just trying
There it
to.
is. Perfect. Perfect.
So
And
what's the
then
email?
email is district6 at sanantonio.gov. If you want to get on our newsletter list, to get my newsletter, it's a weekly newsletter, and there is a little bit about what we're doing, but the majority of it really is resources. So I'd love to be able to get those resources out to more people. So you can email District 6 and we'll send you that newsletter weekly. Social media, of course, Councilwoman Melissa Cabello Havrda on Facebook and Instagram. And for my campaign, I have a website. It's melissaforsa.com.
Is it FOR?
FOR, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sometimes
Yeah, FOR. It's MELISSAORSA.com. Yeah.
melissa.com, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Like that. Oh, where'd it go? Like that?
Yes, sir. That's right.
Okay. All right.
That's right.
And that's where they can donate and volunteer and everything.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, is there anything that you want to say, like a last some last words or anything for your campaign or anything like that?
Just I'm really really grateful for the opportunity. I mentioned it before, but whatever happens, I'm going to still be around. I'm still going to be working for this community. I am so invested. This is my the San Antonio is in my blood. It's who I am, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to represent this community, this and especially through these last 2 years that have been very difficult with everything going on. At first it was hard. I was trying to figure out like what's my place in this. But at the end of the day, it's opportunity. It's opportunity for my people, the people that I represent, to change things, to advocate for people that want that change. So I'm excited about it. If I do or don't win, I'm excited about the continued work that I'll do in the district. But I do respectfully request your vote. I ask for your vote. And if you have any questions of me, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll give you my cell phone number. If anybody has any questions for me personally, I'd love to talk with you. It's 210-549.
Let
Sure, let
me
me know.
okay, go ahead.
210-549-8620. Call me, text me. You have a question or a concern, I'm open book. I'd love to talk to you.
Yeah. And be reasonable. Don't be doing it like
Please.
early in the
Yeah, not
morning.
past 9. I do have kids, things like that.
But yeah, so awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and just thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for being engaged. Keep in mind that, remember, we are also having the school board election votings, school board election vote, school board elections. I don't know.
Mhm.
So make sure you look at that. I did interview some school board candidates, so if they are in your district, please do so. The districts are not the same as the city council district, so please be aware of that. Make sure you find out who these school board candidates are as well, because they also deal with your children and where that funding goes. Keep Go look at all the city council members, where the districts are, where they lie on the topics, and then ask the questions. Because if councilwoman, if you do not know what the people want, how,
That's
how
right.
can you do what you need to do? So please reach out to her, reach out to whoever your council person is, and make sure you reach out and ask those questions, and tell them what you want or what you see that you would like to see change. So, but thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Again, make sure you tune in at 1 o'clock. We have our how to protest your taxes. It's very important, because you're going to get taxed out of your home if you don't keep protesting your taxes. You have to make sure you protest, and how to do that effectively, um, just to make sure that you're not getting taxed out of your home. It's the best way to put it, because I know mine jumped a lot, and I was like, oh, it's, it's terrible. So, but thank you everyone for watching. If you would also, the viewers, would like to donate to this live stream as well, my cash app is down below. Please do so. I'm not affiliated with anybody, working with anybody, so just if you would like to do the, if you'd like to see this continue, please do so. But thank you, Councilwoman. I appreciate you coming on, and everybody have an awesome day.
Thanks for the opportunity. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Bye bye.